going on, guys? We are getting it in today, talking to the men on Kings Speak. Kings Speak was an interview series created to make a platform and space for men to discuss the important topics that us women are usually always discussing, which is our values, our emotional intelligence, our hearts, healing, emotions, all of those things that you don't hear guys talk about often. We're talking about them now. We definitely feel over here that understanding, love, and an open heart to humans is what's going to create the unity that we need in order to dissolve some of the separation and chaos that we're feeling in our daily lives. So up next, we have an amazing man, a great friend of mine. I've watched this man evolve and put in the work when it comes to being a better human. And that's why I trust having him on this show to kind of share with you guys so you can glean from his experiences and grow. Maybe identify something in a partner or in yourselves or, you know, whatever it is that you need. So he is the creator of Mastermind Connect, which I love. Camping Connect, which is awesome. It's part of Mastermind Connect. He put that together. But today we are talking about the Rebel Camp, which is something new he has going on with God mode. So we're going to get my boy Mike McConnell up in here. Feel free to ask questions, you guys. I can see everything to the right of me. So let's get Mike in the studio.
Hey, what's up, my dear? How are you?
Hey.
I think you have the wrong title for me. I think you have the wrong title for me, but I can flow on any level you want.
Oh wait, what? Oh, you know what? Well, hold up though.
I can talk about it. You know, listen, I can talk about anything you want. I'm just telling a few friends about your amazing program. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, you're right. Okay, so
you want to get into anything? I could flow on any level, my dear. Look, I've been cheated on and been the cheater. I know about attraction. I get it. So whatever you want to talk about, I'm an open book today.
Look, well, we might have to dive into it a little bit because that just might be what it is.
Hey man, sometimes you got to listen to the universe. I mean, you always have to listen to the universe. So you know, I'm happy to be here, and thank you for having me back. Yes. It's my second time.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you back. So you see, I upgraded my situation. I was like, how can we make this look?
Yeah. Listen. We just started using StreamYard at Mastermind Connect, and I absolutely love it. It feels like I'm like being broadcasted via like NBC studio or something. So you're doing your thing. I'm very proud of you.
I love it. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we were gonna. Let me get my little notes. Hold on.
Yeah.
I didn't make some.
Take a swig of water.
Yeah, we were going to talk about personal codes and principles, which I'm really excited about because it's literally the cornerstone of how we function. Everything we do flows from where we hold our values. So definitely want to dive in this conversation with you because you're just so in tuned with everything and you know, on this amazing journey. So I know people would love to hear from you when it comes to that.
Yeah, absolutely. You probably know me for 8-9 years. And in those years, I've just evolved as a man. Classic story of, growing up, single parent, single mother household, not really having, super positive male role models because, the men in my family were on their own journey. And I had to honor that and respect that. So just as I've grown, trials and tribulations, things that I've been through, I just started to really take a step back and dive a little deeper and say, okay, as a man, I need to have a foundation. I need to have principles and I need to have codes. And I can break those down. Having a codes, your personal code is your philosophy on life and how you feel about yourself, your personal philosophy on life and how you feel about yourself. Yeah. Principles are your personal truth. So your principles are your personal truths. And what I've been able to do is just really take that more serious in my life and journal, of course. Like if you are not journaling, you are missing out. And really write those down by hand and say, what matters to me. So for instance, as far as principles are concerned, and I literally just did a video on this for the Rebel Camp that I edited and out the door uploaded on the Rebel Camp right now. But some principles that I adhere to, because you're going to have different types of principles in your life. So personal principles, um, parenting principles, financial principles, health and wellness principles, and then of course spiritual principles, which I always feel like are the foundation and the root that hold everything together. Right? Those are your non-negotiables. Right?
Yes.
So I've just been able to really apply that for myself, apply that for myself and just grow as a man and grow into myself, not away from myself. Oh, and you're frozen.
I have to replay this and take some notes
Yeah,
because
yeah,
even having a topic like this, I realized like, am I writing down, am I flowing from a space where I'm very clear
yeah.
about my personal principles and my codes? And you differentiated them. You said you differentiated codes and personal principles. Can you tell me the difference against those again?
Yeah. So your personal codes are your philosophy in life.
Right.
It's how you feel about yourself, right? Like you don't go against your personal code. For instance, like on the street, right? There's a street code, right? I'm not no snitching, son, no snitching. That's a code that you can take on for yourself, right? That's a code. You sticking to the code. And that's your personal philosophy about how you feel about life and yourself. Now, principles are your personal truths. That to me is like your inner constitution, something that you believe in so strongly and it applies itself across the board in your life. So any decisions that you're making, you're going to first, ask yourself from within, like, does this align with my principles? And it's another great way to also set boundaries because I feel like not enough people set boundaries. I think people just flow throughout life and they get angry when somebody, does something that they don't like. But if you don't even know what you stand for, how do you expect people to give you the respect that you want? And that even goes with cheating and this subject that's up here.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm like,
Yeah.
that it flows right in. That subject, I'm gonna have to change that, but it does flow in because the conversation we had when we were talking about sex and cheating and all these things is that a lot of the times people don't have any codes set in place, and then when you mix that with science and chemistry and the way our bodies work, people are just freestyling. People are just going with the flow. They don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't afford to do that these days. Like these days, you cannot afford to do that. I mean, at no time in history could you have afforded to do that. But I think we're learning now as COVID sets in and we spend more time with ourselves, we're realizing and doing self audits. We're in this phase of self auditing and saying, damn, am I really about this life? Do I really believe in the things that I say? Right? Do I really need certain people in my life or need, right? We are learning independence on another level. And we need to be allowed that space, right? So, for me, that's going to be something you hear a lot from me because even before you dive into spirituality, I think that you have to discover your personal principles for yourself because, you could go either way in spirituality. You can start following the wrong person that just keeps you angry and in a lower vibration. But if you know that you won't allow anybody to put you in a lower vibration because that's one of your principles from a health and wellness standpoint, mental health standpoint, then you can start, picking up on things a lot quicker and not finding yourself in situations that you don't want to be in.
Yeah, you'll be able to identify in your spirit, like, oh, this is that feeling that I said I wasn't about. Why am I feeling that way? Then to ask yourself the questions. But if you're just going with the flow and you're not standing on anything, they say if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Absolutely.
Then it just becomes very easy to get caught up in a current of whatever. And I have to admit, I lived my life that way a long time. Like I've got my values, but I was kind of just in the boat and in the water. I didn't really have
right. And there's no judgment there. There's no judgment there. This is all for me. I've lived a very full life, thus far. At 41, I've lived a very full life. And I've learned a lot, but it would be a sad thing if I didn't take the knowledge that I've, accumulated throughout my experience, break it down in bite-sized chunks and try to give it to the people. So with that said, actually I was on a camping trip this weekend with the Mastermind Connect, our men's group. And one of my buddies, Talib, said this, and I don't want to curse or anything like that, but he said,
Oh, you're fine.
"I forgive myself for the shit that I didn't know." So he said, I forgive myself for the shit that I didn't know. And that's fine. Just because you make a mistake or you don't know something doesn't mean that you're a failure in life. And even with the title, like cheating, that's a huge issue for a lot of people. I've been on both sides of the coin and it does not feel good. And what having principles and a personal code will do is allow you to stay out of situations that you do not belong in. Right? And it makes you, it sort of suppresses those lower base thoughts that want to take over and say, hey, I want to put myself in this position when you don't need to be in that position. So it's, it's just been a journey, and I'm just ready to really share the knowledge and wisdom that I've accumulated. So that's why Rebel Camp is born, by the way.
Yes, and we're going to talk about Rebel Camp. And I love the things that you said. I love what your boy Talib said, because to knock yourself for the stuff you didn't know is pointless. And to live in a vibration of guilt and shame, which I believe is something else you discussed on one of the Rebel Camp Live. You guys got to follow the Rebel Camp on Instagram. Catch these lives. But it really is the lowest. Ourselves, or give ourselves grace and compassion, it's going to be harder for us to do that for other people and have an understanding about where they are or what they'll be able to, sustain. I think one of my personal codes or whatever, something got to be understanding. I try my best to understand people because I try my best to understand myself, where I was in a certain time period, why something happened, so I can get to the root of how I'm thinking.
Right. It's a beautiful thing that you were able to recognize that, though.
Yeah, and it just kind of takes time. So when do you feel like you were able to get to the point to recognize, like, okay, I'm all over the place. I'm in the wind here. I need an anchor, and then to create those things.
I've done shadow work. And if you don't know what shadow work is,
are y'all ready for this conversation?
That is, I don't know if they're ready. That's why I had to wear white today, Man, the shadow work is a process of really looking at the darkest parts of yourself and delayering and figuring out why you do the things that you do, why those shadows exist, and not judging them, just really observing that side. So if you have a jealous side or enraged side, then that's something for you to sit with. There's certain different things that you need to do with shadow work, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but it really, really teaches you a lot about yourself. And one of my issues was my lack of vulnerability. I just was not vulnerable, and then I would just, crack like an egg, in certain instances in my life. And I was like, man, I'm tired of going through this. What's going on with me? So when I started to really go back in my past and see all the trauma that I've been through, and that trauma was responsible for the person that I was 9-10 years ago, who was a wild animal. He's like just in the clubs, girls everywhere. And what it did is it helped me say, am I messing up anybody's timeline? Are my actions messing up anybody's timeline? Am I, hurting people's lives? Am I disturbing people's peace just so I can get a thrill or have fun or, get some, appease my lower self? So that's when I started to make that change. It was a slow process because it was so much to unpack. And I just started to gravitate more towards developing emotional intelligence for myself. And that emotional intelligence really helped me, see the things that I was doing were just foul. I was hurting people. I was playing with women's emotions. And, I was just a mean dude at one point. I feel not bad, not completely terrible, but I wasn't fully accountable for the things that I was doing in my life. I'm talking about full accountability. Yeah. So this is what all those different modalities help you do. They really help you delayer, deconstruct, and say, okay, I'm going to park this emotion here. We're going to take this trauma and we're going to deal with this. We're going to put that over here, and we're going to create a clear path to a higher level of consciousness. And that's what's happened for me.
Wow, I'm really impressed because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I was reading something that kind of talked about reaping what you sow. And it was kind of talking about the life of potato farming. And when you plant a potato, which side note, I'm so bummed to see they had to throw away so many potatoes because restaurants are closed. That's just another thing. But potatoes take like 3 to 4 years to grow and soil prep, and then you harvest. So it's like, you can't shortcut this.
Yeah.
You're either growing a potato or you're not. And I don't think a lot of people want to go through the process of growing the potato. They want something that's quick, something to fix them. I think that's why people are addicted to all of these different spiritual gurus and memes and all of this stuff, because they're looking for something to feel good for today and I'm done. But this work that you're talking about.
Yeah. Sorry about that. One of my family members had to come in the room real quick.
Oh, that's okay.
But, we got the family vibes going on.
Hey,
no, it is a process. It is a process that you have to respect. You are not going to wake up whole overnight. This is the truth. You're not going to wake up whole overnight. So, you have to give yourself, like you said, that grace to grow. You have to give yourself that grace, and and you also have to hold space for yourself. So grace and holding space. Those are two things that will allow you to grow into the person that you need to be. And I did that. And because guilt will just weigh you down on this earthly plane. Guilt is an anchor, and you will sink to the bottom. So you have to get past that point of, oh man, I was such a bad person and blah, blah. I did that for probably about 5 years of my life. Just really weighed myself down and anchored myself down in a way where it was just, I wasn't allowing myself to grow. So when I deal with people and I consult with people, I just try to figure out what those anchors are, and we cut those ties. That's a part of what we're doing at Rebel Camp right now, is just really soul restoration and soul restoration and self transcendence. Our goal is to help you stay in your true divine power and actualize your gifts. But before you get there, there's a lot of people, they have to do that work. You can't transcend to a place in your life without doing that root work. And that's what we focus on.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I love that you work with men, because a lot of the guys that I've talked to on here, it kind of seems like who you're around and your brotherhood means more. I think it weighs more for men than it does for women. Don't get me wrong. Like, we can kick it, women, and it's like a vibe attracts your tribe type of a certain thing. But but women, I don't feel like we're so swayed by our girlfriends as much as I feel like men are really looking to their boys. Like,
it's a culture. It's a culture.
Yeah.
It's a culture that needs to be checked. And this is not saying that you can't have fun. If you're single, you're single. If you're carousing, you're carousing. But the thing is, there's ways to get what you want without hurting somebody and messing up somebody's timeline. I just want to be very clear about that. There's ways to get there. 7 billion people on this planet. And even if you feel like somebody is your soulmate or your twin flame or whatever, there's and they're involved in an entanglement. like you don't want to be about that life, because to me, nobody is above karma. I know people think they have the ability to transmute that. Energy cannot be created. It can just be transferred. So you're creating this, you're transferring this energy back and forth to yourself in different lifetimes, even sometimes. So you have to watch what you do. And, this is somebody who's learned his lessons the hard way. And, I feel like a lot of men don't understand that they are creating karmic debt for themselves when they do hurt the feminine. And I'm not going to leave women out of that equation. Women do it too. And at the Rebel Camp, we work with women and men. At Mastermind Connect, we just work with men.
Okay.
But, it's really just, this is why it's really important to do that shadow work. And why do I do the things that I do? Why is my behavior like this? Why am I gravitating more towards my lower self versus my higher self? Because you haven't even seen the potential that your higher self has yet.
Well, sometimes I feel like when that happens with people, perhaps there's an identity issue. I shared on one of the last ones. So if you're tuning in, this is, we're talking about personal codes and principles, but the last King Speak was about cheating and attraction. And I shared how I was engaged to a man. We were together for 5 years and things were a mess. He was cheating. There was all these things, but ton of time went by. Yeah. And before the last decade closed, he slid in my DMs and apologized, and is now at 41, realizing that all of the pain.
Yeah. I said it's the magic age, 41. Yeah, that's the age.
Yeah. So now he's realizing all the pain he caused others and all the pain that he caused himself. And now, his little messages is being left on red. He ain't hot like he used to be. You know what I mean? You grow up where, he's grown. He got kids by, different women, which is also fine, but it's just like, he's not getting the attention he used to get. And I think that that's part of what awakened him to realize what was going on. And I had to heal myself, but at the same time, that was the cherry on top. So what you said about karma catching up with you, it does. You can be young, fine, tall, doing what you want to do. Oh, I want to get something new. I'm going to have my girl over here today. But if you think you about to be, that catches up.
It does. But also to play devil's advocate, right? Even on your side, you have to put yourself in the space of forgiveness, right? Like I said, you got to forgive yourself for the shit that you didn't know, right? So you have to put yourself, because when you hold that, not saying that you did that, you've moved on, but what a lot of people do is they hold on to that bitterness and that angerness, and they never allow themselves, to be open to another possible situation. When we get involved romantically with people and we're really into them and we spend years with them, we think there's no other possibilities of a romantic flame again. And we're harming ourselves. And that's a scarcity mindset. That's a 100% scarcity mindset. And if you have that mindset, maybe when you were in that relationship, you were a little too codependent, right? Because that's a huge issue with romantic relationships, is a codependency. You were supposed to be growing together. I think the number one thing that people need to realize in relationships, that it's all cool to like hang out, get a house, have a kid, get the car, all the external things. But if you're not doing that internal work individually and as a unit, then sooner or later, somebody is going to outpace or outgrow one another, right? You thought you liked chicks that, had moles on their face, and then you outgrew it 3 years later because whatever. People change. It just is what it is. And sometimes I have no reason why they do that, but you have to be in communication, in sync as a union, right? You have to be a union, and that you have to have that ability to communicate with that person, or you would be stringing somebody along for years, wake up one day and say, I don't think I could do this anymore, and waste your time and waste their time. So this goes back to having that personal code, and this goes back to having those principles. So you have this set in place before you enter any relationship, romantic, business, it doesn't matter. You know what your non-negotiables are. And it's not something that I always had. Like I said, everything for me has been by trial and tribulation, but I'm tired of that. I don't want to learn like that no more. And I know a lot
I'm so tired of learning the hard way.
Yeah. No learning the hard way. 2020 is a wake-up call for us.
Like, good morning, because it doesn't have to be like that all the time.
Yeah.
I made that declaration with myself. Like, I don't have to learn the hard way. Like, Jaimi, use what you've learned to help you grow. So what I want to ask you is, you talked about, even in relationship, how when people hold on to the bitterness and unforgiveness and things like that, it's something that you don't want to do. One, do you believe that having a personal code and principles can tie into the healing of that? And do you feel like your personal codes and principles will be upgraded and updated often, depending on what happens in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. With having personal codes and principles, that doesn't mean that you're immune to the trials and tribulations of the world. Not at all. Not at all. Sometimes your defenses are down and things happen. But what I can say is you'll healing will be easier. Let's say you're coming off a bad situation, maybe you've been cheated on or whatever. The healing will be easier to do because you're going to review your personal codes and your principles and say, how did I let this happen to me? Where was I mentally? And you're going to do that self-audit, right? You're going to do that self-audit once again, because you're going to be self-auditing continuously. You should be, I can't put a timestamp on when you should be doing it, but that's something that should be a part of your self-care routine, is doing that self-audit and saying, am I operating at the highest level or closest to the highest level as I can? So I think that, it is good for healing. I think holding on to anger, resentment, jealousy, any of those emotions that are very low on the emotional scale just hurt you. It just hurts you. So, at the end of the day, that person that you were with, they probably have moved on. They're not thinking about things that you're thinking about. They moved on with their life. And you are still calling this situation into existence, so it never dies. It never dies. Thoughts become things. That's like the first thing they teach you in Kemetic philosophy, when you study Kemetic philosophy and the religion, is thoughts become things. So you have to be very careful about where you are placing your thoughts. So this is why it's very essential to train your mind to focus on things that can nourish and build up your character. And that's what I've been doing. I haven't been letting the low vibrational stuff get to me as of late. I made a decision to say, hey, I got to move on with my life, no matter what's going on, no matter who's making what decision for themselves. I have to worry about me at the end of the day.
Right. And I want to ask you about that. So I read something. I'm always reading something.
Yeah.
I read something about the 90-10 rule, and 10% of, with your life, 10% of what happens is the actual incident, and 90% is how you respond. So with your principles and your codes in place, but still being human and having feelings and wanting certain outcomes and having expectations, maybe not holding on to them, but you have them. How do you process things that are happening that are outside of your control, but still remain anchored in your pillars?
That's knowing yourself. That's knowing yourself. And that's not going to be easy. I'm not here to sugarcoat shit and give you the basic Tony Robbins answer. That's going to be probably one of the most difficult things for you to do in this lifetime. We are lying to say that we don't have expectations from people. That's just bottom line. When you get on a bus, there's a bus driver, you pay the bus fare, you sit down, you expect your bus driver to get you from A to B. So we are constantly relying on each other as a society. But when you get into a romantic situation or you get into a business situation, you have to really know the person. Take your time to get to know the person, because there's a lot at stake. If we are, I've used this, every time I use the word entangle now, all I think about is Jada.
It's so real. It's such a great word.
It is a great word. When you're entangling with somebody emotionally, spiritually, this is like almost like a contract. So you wouldn't just sign a contract without reading it. So you have to really take your time and let relationships, friendships develop before you commit, and sign over a part of yourself, which you shouldn't be doing in the first place. There's ways to commit to somebody without giving all of yourself, right? Because when you get into a relationship with a person that is already whole and comfortable within their skin, okay with being independent, not super needy, it makes for a great relationship because you're giving each other space. You're giving each other space to grow. You're giving each other space to learn about each other. There's all these things that, you start seeing when you stop smothering people with your expectations that are probably rooted in something from your past that you didn't take care of. You may have some mommy and daddy issues that you're bringing to the table.
Stop yelling at me.
Right. You're bringing that from like, damn, your daddy didn't listen to you. So now you bringing that out on me. And I can't hold your bags for you in a relationship. If you are coming into a relationship with baggage, then we need to check that. Like there needs to be that checkpoint, and you need to take everything out the bag. Just like when you go to TSA, what's in this bag?
Right.
Let's unpack. Just don't show me the pretty stuff. Let's unpack this. And that's how I manage my expectations. I realize everybody has baggage, but let's unpack that first and try to figure out the healthiest way to move forward.
And I love that because it reminds me again of some of the stuff we talked about in the last episode with Rael, who is a relationship scientist. He is a neuropsychologist, so
wow.
And a counselor and all of these things. So you brought up a good point, like getting to know the situation. It's like when we talk about business, we're so clear on what our principles are, how much we want to make, what the this and that. We're so with it. You would never get it. I would never be able to hand you a 10-page contract and be like expecting you to sign it now.
Yeah.
You're going to have to take it to your lawyer, look over, but we don't do that when it comes to like sex and relationships. Yeah. We're just like, I like him, I don't care, I feel it, like, let's have sex. And then
and now you're in an entanglement. And
now you're in an entanglement.
Now
check with your principles.
Now other people are affected by your decisions, especially if you've made emotional agreements with people. You have kids with people. You have to factor all these things in because what you do does matter, especially if you are bringing people into your life. You may not want them right now, but at some point you made a decision to have these people in your life. So for me, it's, just being wise in every decision that I make. And that is, once again, in the emotional scale, you have self-awareness, self-regulation. That's the first two. And then you have empathy. Then you have motivation. So you have to like really look at these things and say, okay, am I making good decisions for myself? So let me be aware. Okay, that's not good. Let me regulate. Let me self-regulate. And let me give empathy towards the situation. Because like I said, you can't get mad at yourself. You have to forgive yourself for the shit that you didn't know or you don't know. And it's just been a ride to discover these things along my journey. And you will discover things along your journey that will make you a wise person. And wisdom is the only way to freedom. Wisdom is the only way to freedom. I don't care what anybody says.
And I love that you. Wait, I'm sorry. What?
I don't care what anybody says. The more you know about yourself and about the world, the better decisions you'll make, the more successful you'll be.
Yeah, it's very true because, we get tons of knowledge every day. It kind of goes back to what I'm saying. People try to do just a quick fix. We can take in knowledge that might have us feel good for a minute, but wisdom, when you are able to take in enough knowledge that you can put that thing in action, I really feel like now you're working with something. Now we can have conversations like this. Now we can go to the depths of transformative conversations. Otherwise, it just all stays real surface. I kind of run into a lot of guys these days who I can tell they're looking at things, but it's baby steps. Yeah. You're drinking the milk, you'll eat meat later, but you're getting it. And I really think that, like you said, it's a journey, it's a process, but it's one that is extremely necessary. So if you don't mind sharing one or two, what is one of your personal codes and what are one of your principles? For Mike, they've just been that way. This is who you are. You want to share one with us just so the people can hear?
Man, one of my personal codes is, and this is just my philosophy on life, is just to allow myself to learn without judgment. So I allow myself to learn without judgment because for so many years, I used to judge myself because I did not know. So allowing myself to learn, I am a lifetime learner. So I give myself the grace to learn. And that's just a part of that holding space for myself. So that's one of my personal codes. And it's funny because I wrote them down today. They're in a book downstairs. I needed to look at them again because there's a situation in my life that's changing. And I said, okay, let me redo my codes. So allowing myself to learn without judgment and being excited about it. So that's one of my personal codes. As far as my principles are concerned, I'll share my parenting principles because I love my kids, my 3 kids, Max, EJ, and Indigo. It's just to always show up, always show up, always
Good.
show up for them. And because, you know, I know how it feels to, you know, not have a parent show up because they're dealing with their own mental health stuff. So this is why I have to be okay with myself because I have to show up for my kids. So it's just about showing up. You know, that's one of my parenting principles is I got to be there to take my daughter to school every day. I got to be there for my son who has autism, my youngest son. I got to be there for my 17-year-old who wants to go to college. And I'm figuring out college and navigating that. And like the process is crazy. So showing up is huge as a parent for me because I have different levels of principles. I have personal principles, I have parenting principles, financial principles. I have all these principles. And the financial is even changing for me now, you know, as I start new businesses. So you're always going to be adjusting as you do those self audits. You're always going to be adjusting, or maybe not. That's your prerogative. But just be open to it because people do change. You do change.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned changed. I mean, especially with coronavirus and everything that's happened,
Yeah.
It's been an insane year. Yes, it has made room for beautiful things to come out, but I've even been in a place myself. I'm moving. I'm moving from LA.
What?
I told you.
Oh, you're moving to LA and I'm coming to LA. That
I
sucks.
know. I
Yeah.
was like, oh.
Yeah.
But you know, it's one of those things where I'm reevaluating myself, and that's why I can't wait to spend some time to reevaluate and rewrite my personal codes and principles because I mean, I've been in Hollywood a long time. What part of this is me? What part of it can I do without? Do I really need to be here? What do
Yeah.
I care about? Because you know what I care about most? I'm a very domesticated woman. I want to be home cooking, cleaning, learning new recipes.
Hey,
I'm
man.
People don't know that I want to plant. I
Yeah.
want to take walks. I have a whole lifestyle that is dear to my heart.
Yeah.
That I'm not living.
Yeah. And that's,
I'm only living a portion of who I really am.
You're evolving. You're evolving. And that's something that COVID did to us. It forced us to evolve. This is a social evolution that is happening. And if you haven't evolved through this in some way, whether that be spiritually, financially, you know, physically, you have just been watching the news all day and been in a state of fear because COVID has pushed a lot of people to ask themselves those real questions. And I'm glad that you were listening to, you know, your heart, but connecting your mind and your heart together because that's when you make the best decisions. When you connect your mind with your heart, you let your mind interpret what your heart wants. That's when you make the best decisions. When you just let your heart make the decisions, you know, you wind up in a 4 or 5 year relationship with somebody who you know, doesn't have any principles. When you just let your mind make decisions, you may talk yourself out of things. So connecting the two will allow you to make the best informed decisions for yourself without losing the passion.
You know, I like the way you put that, and I absolutely agree. And using my heart and mind to make the decision to move made it a no-brainer. You know what I mean? Because it was just like, okay, this seems more in alignment. So I love that. You did speak about vulnerability. So again, when it comes to even creating your codes and your principles, how much does vulnerability and identity play in creating those principles and codes for yourself?
Vulnerability is something that I feel like I've mastered.
Have you? Teach me your ways.
I feel like it is. I feel like it's something that I am constantly in awareness of because I lacked it for so long. So it just felt like a pipe burst. Boom. And then after it burst, I was able to like just see everything that I've been holding back for years. And what vulnerability allows me to do is one, be honest with myself first. And then second, be honest with others. And for a long time, I wasn't being honest with myself. I was appeasing. So when you don't have the that ability to be vulnerable, you're going to be appeasing others your entire life. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable with yourself first, you can say, I'm tired today. I can't do it. Right. Or, any other thing that you're trying to work against, it just really opens up the lines for truth. It opens up the highway of truth within yourself. And then being vulnerable with others, there has to be a trust there to be vulnerable with others. You're not just vulnerable with people that you don't know, because they can't use that against you, right? So being vulnerable with others takes a level of discernment that you have to develop amongst yourself first. Like, you have to develop that discernment, like, okay, I feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable with this person. Not being vulnerable with a motive, involved, but truly being vulnerable so you can connect with other people and create that network of just really dope people in your life, or that one-on-one relationship. Identity, you ask, identity is a big thing. I thought I knew myself for so many years. And at 41 years old, I'm like going into a career I thought I'd never be in with the Rebel Camp. I'm doing things that I never thought I'd do. The vulnerability aspect has pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And I love that, because I don't want a comfort zone. Everybody wants a comfort. I don't want to be a comfort zone. To me, comfort is death. But identity, right now, I'm not going to be one of these people who say, oh, I really, truly, truly know myself to the T. I'm building a new identity because I am a new person. The old me was codependent and not self-reliant, as more self-reliant as I wanted to be. Emotionally, I was very codependent. And now I'm able to feel like I release this pressure. Now that I have allowed myself to come into my new self and say, you know what? I'm not going to judge that. Because once again, one of my codes is allowing myself to learn, right? Allow myself to learn, healing, and then becoming. And that's what I did. I healed, and then I'm healing, and then I'm becoming, right? So you'll heal from several different things in your life, sometimes at once, and that can feel very cumbersome. But you can't let it steal the joy of developing your identity, the person that you want to be, and that really is raising your level of consciousness. How high can you go? Raising your level of consciousness. How high can you go? And for me, my goal is self-transcendence, is to be so good with myself and who I stand for, who I am, that I transcend all the petty stuff. And I live my life in service of, or service to. I truly live in my purpose, which is to just make this place, not to sound all kumbaya, but to make this place a better world through my gifts and my talent. And that's where I'm at. That's my identity. That's what I'm shaping and molding right now.
I love it so much, because we are on the same page. It's why I love tuning into your lives when I can catch them, because I'm like, I'm an interviewer. I'm good at interviewing. When there's something on my heart, I'll have something to say. But a lot of times I just feel like other people can nail what I'm thinking and feeling. I'm a big feeler. So I'm on the same page with you, where it is like, it's not like I was being fake. I've always been me to the most of what I thought was me, but there's a shift happening. There's a change happening. And with it comes not only a need for a certain kind of isolation, but yes, a reinstallation of your principles and codes, but also that grace we were talking about, and the opportunity to get to know who you're becoming without crapping on what you desire to be, and kind of integrating that so you can just keep growing.
And you don't have to judge any of those emotions or thoughts. That's why I want to be very clear. This is not some elitist type of thing that I'm running here, is not to judge your lower base thoughts, but not to stay in those. When you stay in that lower base and then you build your identity around those lower base emotions and thoughts, what you're doing is you are weighing yourself down, because you're eventually going to want to come up for air. And then by that time, all the people that you had an opportunity to have in your life, you didn't alienated everybody, or you didn't
Wow.
evolve or change as a person. Like, I don't, I love my friends, but I don't want to hang around my 21-year-old friends again. I'm a grown man. I can't be in the club partying and doing whatever I'm doing. I got things that I want to do. So if we're not on the same wavelength, we're not on the same frequency, then we can't vibe. But at the same time, I have to honor their journey. Like, your journey just doesn't include me. That's it. And I got to be okay with that, because I got my
And
own
that's okay.
I got my own journey
Correct.
to worry about. So that's it.
So there's that.
There's that. But
Yes. So I wanted to ask, when
Yeah.
you talk about building off of a lower vibration, just for the people who may not be used to this kind of talk and this language, what do you mean by that? Like, give me an example of building a life on a lower vibration.
Oh man, especially out in LA, we can go back to identity. In LA, there's a lot of actors and actresses. In New York too. You know, I used to have this persona when I was in nightlife. So I'll give myself up as an example. I was just this like all around fun dude who was partying every single night in places that kind of had a low vibration. Let's keep it real. But it was needed. People wanted to release. But when you start getting caught up in these spaces and you lose yourself in these spaces, that's when it becomes a problem. And now you only feel worthy when people need you in those spaces. So I only felt self-worth when somebody called me to want to party or drink or do this. I wasn't able to separate the two and say, this is real life, the life that I'm building, and this is just something that I do. And there's no judgment about that. But when I got so caught up in that identity that I eventually crashed and burned. And this is an old story, so I can tell it. And I'm not that person anymore. So that's another reason why I'm not attached to that story anymore. I look at that like a different person. But what happened with that side of myself was I realized when you build an identity for yourself, through who you are, the things that you build, the life that you build for yourself, it cannot be built on quicksand. Like, it has to have roots and a strong foundation. Like, if I would have took it to the next level, I would have bought a club, right? And been in business for myself and passed that on to my kids or something.
Right.
You got to be able to see the bigger picture and not just how it makes you feel, right? How it makes you feel. Like, I feel important, or, I feel valued, and that's a need. There's a guy named Abraham Maslow who has this thing called the hierarchy of needs. And esteem needs are something everybody needs. You need to feel valued amongst people, society, friends, and even yourself. So I'm not demonizing it, but I'm saying is when you make something like when you make that type of life for yourself the main identity, whereas you only feel of worth when you make somebody else feel of worth in that space, then you have lost yourself. Because eventually those people that you're partying with, they're going to get older, they're going to move on, you're going to get older. So like I said, that foundation was built on quicksand, and I sank very quickly. Or I got myself out actually before I sank, and I was able to catch myself. But it just didn't serve me no earthly good anymore, and I had to move on. So that's where that self-awareness comes in.
So where do you think those identifiers are? I'm just kind of speaking to people who maybe feel like they're feeling some kind of something, but they're not really sure what it is or how to pivot out of what they're feeling. What was one of the identifiers for you that made you say, okay, this club, how were you able to identify it as quicksand?
I started to get tired. I knew there was more for me. I started to tap into a higher level of consciousness, even though I didn't know how to access it. I wasn't meditating. I wasn't really I had no self-care routines. There was still a conscious back there. that was like, hey, there's more for you out here than just, what you're doing. And not to, judge anybody who's doing that, but it just gets old really quickly. And it became the same soup, just reheated. So the identifier was me listening to self. And I had to like look at myself in the mirror and say, is this all you want to be? You haven't tapped into your full potential yet. Is this all you want to be? So after that, I began my journey. Many twists, turns, successes, failures, perceived failures, which I don't really believe in failure. I just believe in lessons. So that was the main identifier for me, which was finally listening to myself and not saying, hey, let me just keep on with this whole popularity thing and just ride it till the wheels fall off. I left at the height of my nightlife career. A lot of people were mad at me, but I was like, I got to do me. I got to take care of myself. I got to put my oxygen mask on first. So just really listening to yourself, listening to self. And I would say that was the main identifier for me.
Yeah, I love that. Listening to self. I think it took me a while to almost know what that voice sounded like.
Yeah.
Just because there's so much out there. We have so many ideas.
Yeah.
Really, think about the people in the 1800s. I don't know if we've evolved fast enough to really hold all the information that we're getting. In the 1800s, we haven't evolved that much as a human, but we're taking in information probably that they would have taken in their entire lifetime in one day. So sometimes I understand how it's hard to hear your voice or even understand what that means if you're not tapped in, you're not spiritual, you're not connected to this or that. Yeah. So with that being said, so I know you've been on this journey for a while, but when it comes to like your codes and principles, was this something that you started to develop then, or did you have old ones when you were in the party life that made sense to you in that season, and then your higher self was like, we should think about it?
This codes and principles thing is a new journey for me. It's a new journey.
Oh, I love it.
I did not have that. All I wanted to do was feel. That's all I wanted to do was feel. I was an emotional ass Libra with mommy issues, daddy issues, and I only was able to get love through popularity. And once I realized that, I stepped back from it and said, okay, who am I without all this attention from women and the nightlife and the celebrities and the pop in the bottle? Who am I really? I'm not this persona. I'm more than this. And it really started when I began the journey with Mastermind Connect in 2017. In 2016, really, I started my spiritual journey, and it's been a while. I've come a long way. In 2017, that's when I said, you know what? I'm going to turn my pain into purpose. And I need some positive male role models in my life. So I started the Mastermind Connect with a few other partners. And I developed my codes and principles through working with these men. I wasn't like, before like super bad, but like I needed to be around men that I could admire and befriend. And it wasn't like this mentor-mentee relationship. It was just like this even-keeled relationship where I can ask you questions and you can ask me questions. And we have an open line of communication. So I started to really take that hardcore around that time, 2016, 2017, just saying, I do not want to repeat history like the men of like the men in my family. So let me self-correct. And it took a lot of time. But
so it's like a lifeline. You created a lifeline.
Absolutely. I'm pretty good at doing that. But I'm creating a thrive line now. I'm thriving.
Oh, I heard that.
Yeah.
Get on that thrive line. I heard that.
Yeah.
I love that. I really love what you're doing because it's necessary. And I know men and their egos and how they communicate, there's different, sometimes people don't always feel comfortable saying, hey man, I need help, or I don't know how to do this, or I'm confused.
Yeah.
So they just keep about their journey and staying in pain and hurt and trying to self medicate. And we live on a whole planet full of people. That's what we're here for, is to like commune and grow. Yeah. I've definitely had a couple of times over the past, I would say in 2008 and 2015 were both time, and probably now again, I've had to ask myself, like, who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? Just to double check in and make sure. And it is because I'm desiring different things. So all of that to say, do you feel like your desire for more, your hunger to thrive and do just something massive and bigger, adjusts the way you attack your daily life and relationships? Like, is
Yeah,
there a conscious effort there?
I want to take over the world now. Now that I'm not in my way, now that I gotten out of my way, I want to take over the world. I want to take over the world. There's nothing that is holding me back right now. What I focus on is staying disciplined. A man cannot be successful unless he's disciplined. And if he has a woman in his life or a man, whatever your preference is, they have to support that, right? You have to nurture that. You can't take that away. If you see your partner likes to meditate every day, they like to work out every day, and you're trying to cut into that time, you are actually harming them because you're being selfish. So with me, I don't have anything blocking me or in my way. I feel like what I'm going to do is start extending my message outward, because it's also is a way to help me heal by helping people. Like you said, I do create lifelines. I create lifelines. I'm a master builder. And that's what men are. Men, we are here to build. We're architects. Woman, you guys feel. You guys feel. You have that deep sense of feeling. We can see, you guys can feel. So we may have blind spots or, things that we can't feel. That's when you guys come in as counsel. You guys are oracles. And we just have to honor, and this is not just in a romantic sense. This is your mom, your aunt. We have to work together. So my thing is with this next journey with the Rebel Camp, because I do have Mastermind Connect, which is the men's group, but the Rebel Camp is just all genders, and just really helping people like I said, actualize their gifts and stay in their true divine power. So I take a little bit of everything. So a little bit of spirituality, a little bit of, a little bit of self-development. It's not too heavy to where it's just one flavor, because we are more than just one myopic thing. We switch channels every day. So I want to make sure to have that sweet spot to where I can identify with anybody, because I do feel like we all have similar needs in life. Once again, going back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is psychological needs, safety needs, esteem needs, and then coming to that point of self-actualization. And that part of self-actualization is like acceptance of full self, right? After self-actualization, self-transcendence, when you are just rising above and you are truly in your goddess power. And that's just something I'm interested in doing for people, is helping them bring that to life. I've been a master connector for over a decade. But now it's really time to do it my way.
I love that. I think I'm with you on the same page. I'm kind of looking for what's next with that. I feel like a connector, a master connector of people. And now it's like, okay, rechecking in. What's my voice? What's my project? What am I going to do? And in order for me to hear that, I think I need to get out of I've been in New York, LA, and now I'm going to a little town.
It's in here.
So I can, it is.
All of it is in here. You have, we have about what they say, 12 to anywhere from 12,000 to 12,000 to 80,000 thoughts, 60,000 thoughts a day. Sorry for butchering that. 12 to about 60,000 thoughts a day. Out of all of those thoughts, 80% are negative. So if you don't take time to understand your mind and the way your body works, review your soul to make sure that your soul's not broken, then you're going to be spinning like a hamster on a wheel. And this is a time during COVID where you are allowed to be selfish. You're allowed to focus on yourself. You may not have to go and work. You still may be on furlough. If you haven't taken that time to get to know who you are, you have wasted valuable time. People are like out here dying, and folks are just still sitting in front of TV eating Twinkies complaining about Donald Trump. This is the time where you need to be understanding what your purpose is in life and living that purpose and staying in that power, because we are not even operating at 2% capacity of what is possible.
Isn't
And
that
that's what I realized.
insane?
A lot of it has to do with the subconscious mind. I'm not even going to get into that tonight. That's like a whole other workshop that I have that I'm about to launch a workshop called God Mode.
Yes. Tell me all about, you told us about Rebel Camp, but tell us about God Mode.
God Mode is this concept that I saw my son playing a video game one day, and he was putting in his code in a video game. I was like, man, that's a long code. What are you doing? And he's like, I'm putting in the code to access God Mode. And I was like, what's God Mode? It gives you invincibility on every level. And I said to myself, God damn, you know,
that code.
We can actually do that in real life. Like, we can apply that in real life. And we can be invincible in this life, but you have to understand your mind. You have to understand your mind. You have to understand your body. You have to understand your soul. And then after that, you create this spirit, because spirit is in the mind, right? You ever feel like you lost that mojo, like you lost that sauce, right? It's probably because your mind isn't right. So you lose that. You are a spirited person at one point. And, you know, I teach people how to get that back within themselves or discover that. And God Mode is that workshop that really looks at every single one of those aspects. We do shadow work. We develop affirmations. We connect with nature. We meditate. So it really is a full-on workshop that gets people outside of their comfort zone and gets them to look inward. And this is just part one. Part two is more outward. So part one is really going deep dive within, mirror work, shadow work, affirmations. There's other things on there that are there, journaling, but all of it in one place versus going to different places to get all of this stuff. You get it in one place. And, you know, I'm just such a relatable person. I know that's one of my gifts. I'm shameless about that. I feel like I can relate to anybody. So God Mode will be out probably within the next week and a half. I'm gonna
cool.
around the corner. Yeah, I got to record the whole thing over again. Like, just really make sure I'm not putting out half-ass work, you know, because how you do anything is how you do everything. So I have to make sure that you know, it's up to the par of the people that support me. Especially in my Facebook group today, I got over 115 new followers in my Facebook group. So I'm very happy about that.
That's amazing. And they're all for Rebel Camp?
Yeah, at the Rebel Camp on Facebook, the Rebel Camp on Instagram, creating the Twitter tonight. So I'm really excited about how people are responding to it, because I feel like I'm that like bridge. I don't go too high spiritually. I don't go too left from a self-development standpoint. You know, it's not all metaphysics. I don't make it like spiritual battle rapping. You know, it's not like a contest to prove who's the smartest guy in the room. It's relatable content and real talk, straight, no chaser. Like, you get real talk from me, but it's done in a way that is artful.
Yeah. And you are good like that. You know, divine, you know, God is using you as a prism. I love the thought of a prism because it's coming to you. But by the time it comes through you and out, we've got all of these colors that we're working with, and they're very authentic to who you are, whether you're wearing red, yellow, orange, blue, green. You do offer a little bit of street, a little bit ex-party, a little bit of father, a little bit of husband, a little bit of, so it because it is all those things. It's not just like you said, Tony Robbins, get up, and I'd be like, dude, you gotta stop yelling at me. I'm not getting up today. So what are you gonna say about that? Like, I need to understand how to use tools from like a regular human who just is like giving me the human stuff.
I will tell you like this. Look, let me tell you something. Social media is a highlight reel. Most of these gurus and these spiritual teachers and people that you see are just like you. They have the same issues. They're just really great teachers. And we have to make sure that we understand that and don't. I always say this, be obsessed with the message, not the master.
I like that.
Be obsessed with the message, not the master, you know, and you'll start really understanding that we are equals. I don't put anybody above me, no matter how much they know. Just because you got a good memory and you can teach does not make you better than the next person. But we go into these situations, and they don't even ask that sometimes. But we go into these situations that thinking that this person is higher than me or higher than you. We can't go into it like that. This is all information that is out there. People are just taking it and putting it in one place for you. Some people like me, who I'm an intuitive. So I tap it intuitively because I feel energy and I'm able to read people. And I thank people for honoring that from me, but that does not make me better than anybody. I refer to myself as a king, right? That's because of how I treat myself, how I walk, how I talk, how I present myself. Sometimes you forget you're a king and a queen, and you got to be reminded. And this is where the God mode workshop comes in, because it's going to remind you. You're just remembering, that's all. You're just remembering who you are before the world.
I agree. And when you remove some of the stuff we talked about, the guilt, the shame, you can see that in yourself.
Yeah.
You can polish off the diamond and see the realness in yourself, not compare to others. Sometimes when I get in my modes and I'm teaching on my page, I'll share, but I always remind people, like, I'm not sharing from up here. I'm learning and growing with you. Like, we are growing together. I'm not teaching at anyone. And things change so much. You evolve, you grow, you lose things, you go through this, we're all learning the same lessons over and over again. So it's definitely a roller coaster, but you're on the right page if you can tap into literally what's in you, which is probably it's permanent, but it's impermanent. Like, I feel like our vessel is always changing, but you are still always you. So if you can teach people how to use that to navigate, I mean,
this shit is Zelda, man. It's like Zelda. You're gonna get frustrated. You're just gonna
Zelda.
Paths. You're gonna walk into spaces, and you're not always gonna get the answers you want, but you got to stick with it. You got to stick with it. There are things that are there. There are answers to all of your problems, and that's one thing I try. Any problem that you have, there is an answer for. Straight up, whether that just be acceptance. Sometimes just accepting the situation is the answer that you need, because you're being pushed by the universe because you're not listening. So the universe is like, okay, all right, you're not listening. So we're going to create a really crazy scenario for you that's going to make you uncomfortable and uproot your life so you can move out of said space or move away from a person.
You have no choice now.
You have no choice. You have no choice. Get your chakras right. Stay balanced. Eat well. Eat,
Yes.
out. Do the things that keep you in a high vibrational mood. Even if you're not feeling well, still do it. Yeah. Be a person of discipline. Be a person of discipline. Like I said, when you don't, I said this to a partner of mine this weekend. When you don't want anything, you get everything.
That is so true. I mean, it sounds like just a little meme or a t-shirt until you really start seeing it happen repeatedly. Yeah. And I'm like, dang, I let go of that, got over it. I don't even care. And now here it is, this plus something.
A year later, you're not even going to be thinking about that person. You would have moved on to be with possibly the love of your life. Who knows what this path, and this is what scares the shit out of people, is that they can't dictate what's going to happen to them next all the time. And I'm not delusional about that. You cannot dictate what's going to happen all the time. You are in control of your own steps. You are in control of your own steps. I don't know if it's going to rain a month from now. I don't know what's going to, but I'm prepared for it. And when you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
I heard that.
You're frozen.
That I'm talking, the personal principles, definitely. If anything, I stay healthy. So I might slip on something else, but I eat healthy, I drink a lot of water, and I keep this body moving. And because of that, even when the coronavirus came about, it's not that I'm like, oh, I'll never get this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I just kind of felt a little bit more prepared. Like, all right, I know what to do to kick it up a notch. I'm going to fast. I'm going to take my elderberry shots. I'm going to add it too. But I'm already working with a vessel that's kind of ready and not just like, oh, snap. Like, because you just never know what's going to happen.
I mean, this is super mental. This whole situation also is super mental with coronavirus, super mental. So, you know, we have to also be, you know, I had to like take a little bit of a break from, you know, the Facebook. I go on Facebook, I don't read anybody's stuff.
Yeah.
I post my stuff and I bounce because
Yeah.
there's a lot of trauma bonding and fear mongering. And it starts,
Galore.
and people are not even conscious of it. They're so absolutely rude that they will just keep doing what they do. But like my man said, people gonna people. People gonna people. You can only worry about yourself, your children, your responsibilities, and be okay and give thanks for that. Give thanks for that. We got to start being in gratitude a lot more, even for the lessons. I just learned a huge lesson in my life, like a lesson that literally saved my life. And it made me so uncomfortable. It was the hardest thing I ever been through, but it is bringing out a level of greatness within me that was. I was like, where was this? I could create like a god. Like, where was this for the last few years?
Wow.
Because you can be under the spell. You can be under a spell and don't even know it. You're under the spell of fear. You're under the spell of codependency. You're under the spell of manifesting your lack all the time. I go to Facebook
Under
and I see people manifesting their lack.
Manifesting lack.
It's unreal. Oh, there ain't no good men out here. Ain't no good women out here. Okay, well, all men cheat. Okay, well, that's thoughts become things. So you're about to manifest that in your life again. Now you're in a loop. You know, you're in a loop. You know, and the same thing. Oh, this subject, cheating, right? People lining themselves up for that. You know, when there's 7 billion people out here, or more.
It's true. You get cheated on.
What's for me is for me. I don't want to take what anybody else got. I've been through that already, like in my life.
Correct.
You know? I don't want, like, if it's not for me, it's not for me. If it did not come divinely to me in a way that was succinct with my codes and principles, it is not for me. Straight up.
But do you know how hard it is for people to grasp that? I mean, even for myself, I look and I think about, of course, I've been cheated on. I never cheated on anybody, but I just, going through those things. We talked about holding on to bitterness and holding on to things. And I used to, manifest lack by holding on to the fear and a little bit of the bitterness. And just, there was a real period of my life where I was like, well, I don't need a relationship. I don't even want to be in a relationship. I'm just out here having fun. Yeah. I'm just out here, And that don't match with my principle or my code. My values are, freedom, fun, family, faith. And so even if with the faith part of things, it's like, dang, you let the world dictate how you feel and how you're driving yourself, your body, and your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, life is a game, right? You know, if LeBron just stopped playing because he lost the game, then, there would be no LA Lakers and NBA, right? You are going to win some and you're going to lose some. But that's all perspective. If you can win from your and I call them perceived losses.
Yep.
Because we also have to think like, LeBron lost. He made it to the NBA.
Hi.
Right. Right. Like he's playing on a very high level. So what to you really is losing? To me, losing is when you lose. When you compromise your principles, you don't have a code, and you are constantly disrupting somebody's timeline. You're a loser, straight up. And like I said, I've been in those shoes before where I just took. I didn't care who it hurt. I had to fill those empty spaces within myself. I was a puzzle as far as a man is concerned. And I wanted somebody to put that puzzle back together, make me feel good. That's not anybody else's responsibility. It is your responsibility to put yourself back together or put yourself together. Everybody is born with those puzzle pieces. You are responsible for putting yourself together. Nobody else is responsible for putting you together. It's nice if they help, but it's not anybody's responsibility. And you realize that at a certain age, like, yo, damn, life is pretty real. Mama ain't cooking like she used to.
No, not at all.
But you can transcend all of that and be so big and
Yeah,
so above that. It's just you have to have your code, you have to have your principles because that helps you determine your worth. And maybe I should have said that early in the beginning, but it does help determine your worth and your value, how you feel about yourself.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
That's why I asked all those questions about identity and vulnerability. Because if you don't have an idea of that, or who God says you are, or who divine says you are, then maybe even sometimes your codes and principles could be off,
yeah.
especially if they're coming from a place rooted in, something sandy and not stone, something.
Scarcity, it's there's so many layers to why people do the things that they do. They just never take the time to realize what those things are. They don't take the
I
time.
feel like society is set up that way almost though, because United States is a business. So they need you to buy the things. They need you to tune into whatever they need you to do. This money machine needs to keep running. So I think we are inundated with a barrage of
Mhm.
so much that we don't even have 2 seconds to ask ourselves a question. I felt like that before coronavirus. I mean, I go in and out, and I'm the type of person, I will fight for my peace. If I got to quit a job, I don't give a damn. I'll get another one. I know everybody's not like that. But with this virus situation, it was an opportunity to say, okay, but you don't have a choice this time.
Mhm.
So it finally created space for the masses to start asking themselves questions. But we're too distracted at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, I mean,
We're learning not to be.
monkey mind. Every day I go on social media, it's just monkey minded business. There's like what? Huh? You can't focus. And this is why you have to have your regiments. It's a part of your discipline. It's a part of your principles. Have your regiments. Have that sacred time for yourself. Wake up early. You got kids, you're a single mother. They wake up at 8 p.m., 8 a.m. every day. Wake up at 6 a.m. Train your mind to wake up that time. I know you're tired, but you'll get over it. Have that sacred time for yourself so you can meditate, work out. Just have the time to think because before you know it, you're going to be seeing coronavirus, Donald Trump, another black person got shot. And all this stuff is traumatic and it's so heavy. I don't even know how people just aren't walking in the street and dying and passing out. It's too much. It's like torture. The media is like torture. So you're not going to get a chance to know who yourself because you're bonding with other people through negativity all day. So where's your soul circle? Where's that circle that's going to feed you? Where is that? I don't know. But
Right.
yeah, man, it's deep. It's
Yeah,
deep.
it's an emergency. We are in a
Yeah,
state of emergency. Our
we
spirits, our
are.
souls, our purpose are in a state of emergency. So we better find it. I know I'm looking. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure I stay on the right path.
Hey, man, well, join the rebel camp. We got you, man. This is what I'm
I will
passionate
join the
about.
rebel camp.
Yes, passionate about this. I'm building this from the ground up. I have a lot of people helping me. And it's the first time I actually have a voice for myself, which is very important.
I love it. I'm excited. I mean, I'm so proud of you. I tell you that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to give you a big old hug.
Oh, I miss you too. I miss you
I
too.
know
I'll
I
see
miss
you in
you.
Texas.
I know. Well, I'm gonna come visit. There's a lot of things. I still have
Yeah.
my apartment that I'll probably keep and this and that. I'm figuring it all out too.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely be connected and stay connected on everything because I would love that. And even if only 4 people see this conversation, I definitely got so much value out of it and just catching up with you and hearing where you are and listening to these ideas. And I'm excited, and the reestablishing and the reiterating and all of that stuff. So really good. I love
Thank
it.
you so much for having me. And I love this. I love this platform and I love what you're doing. I'm going to keep bigging it up.
Thank you so much. I'm just
Absolutely.
finding ways to make it better and to translate. I'm having
Yes.
fun in the process and
Yes.
people are finding value in it. So mission
Yeah.
accomplished.
You just keep going. Gratitude. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you to everybody for watching, whoever was watching. I'm going to share this again on my platforms, and I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. You too. Don't forget to follow Mike at Mastermind Connect and at the
The
Rebel
Rebel
Camp
Camp.
on Instagram.
Yes.
So
And
many.
yeah, I got a lot.
On where?
And
Oh,
Mike,
yeah.
Mike the Blueprint is my personal. But thank you guys.
Mike the Blueprint. That's right. And I'm going to be posting and putting that stuff up too, so you guys can see it. I need to put it in the description below too.
Okay.
I'm getting better at what that looks like.
Give me some good clips. I'll share them.
Yay. Oh, thank you so much, my love, for all of your wisdom. Have a beautiful day, and we'll definitely talk soon.
Peace.
Bye. All right, guys, King Speak, and we out. Don't forget to Don't forget to follow at King Speak on Instagram. See you guys next week, July 20th, where we'll be speaking with Reggie. Yeah, Reggie. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. It just slipped my mind. I'm terrible for that. But either way, he is a director and film producer and actor who wrote a film called TMI, How Much is Too Much, and will explore sexuality in men and trauma, like sexual abuse in men. So we always hear Me Too movement. We hear women rape, men are predators, all of these things, but men have a side as well. And we're going to dive into that next week. So it's kind of looking like Mondays at 11 is going to be the new cycle here. So tune in next Monday at 11 and we'll see you guys on King Speak. Bye. I'm your host, Jaimi Alexander, right there. Oh, right there. Follow me on Instagram. Bye.